Hi, and welcome to a really special episode of the DD Geopolitics podcast. I am Sarah, and I'm joined today by my always wonderful co-host Lydia. JM will be joining us a little bit later, and our very special co-host Johnee, an independent journalist, all the way from Australia, now in Donbass, and a group of voices from Donetsk. So we have a lot of people with us today for extended time on this stream. Johnee, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and then introduce all of our guests, and maybe tell us how this project kind of came to be.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing the mic. We're having a few sound issues, but as you can appreciate, this is a bit of a war studio. And actually, we decided to do it here today, and rather than go to a really nice studio, because this is where we work from, when we're not on site. And I don't know if you can see behind us. There's all these shells and fragments and things that Ivan collects because he's a human rights defender, and we're it's all this evidence, and he will talk about it a bit later. So I thought, okay, it won't be perfect here, but hopefully you will all hear us. Now, how this came to be, I came here about 2 months ago. It feels like a lifetime. And I didn't know anybody. I mean, I was just, the second day I was here, I was walking on the street, I was holding my selfie stick and taking photos, and this weird guy stops, this weird guy you see there, and he stops his car suddenly by side, and he jumps from his car and he tells me, "You need help." And I can help you. What are you doing here? And I just looked at him, and I've been to Russia before. I thought, I mean, what's this guy asking of me? And I had this 1 second to decide if to trust him or not. But look at his face. It's a trustworthy place. I decided to trust him, and he probably is cursing this moment until now, because for 2 months now, apart from one day, we've been together all the time, covering all the stuff that's happening in Donetsk, building new visions. And through him, I met Ivan, and then I met Nastya, and when the rockets fell in the center of Donetsk last week. And today we met Alexandra. So that's how I met this team here. Now, this vision came to be because after a few days here, it came to me that the people here don't have a voice. I've been following the story now since February last year, and I've been following channel like yours, Didi. I still remember your last channel, but anyway, like yours, Sarah, and Slaviangrad, and a few others, and then a few of the so-called experts in America that give us all this thing. But I realized there's nobody talking to us from here. Like there's a bunch of English speakers. They have information that none of us have, which is many times contrary to what we think is true, and we'll discuss this today. And I started to build this thing that's called Donbas Need a Voice. And that's what these live streams are about. And we're also building something that will come to fruition soon, is like an internet TV station that every evening everybody in the world can hear 1 hour news from Donbas in English. So that's how this story came to be. Now, before I move forward, because I want to move forward with a certain video, do you have something to elaborate on this, Sarah?
What video are we talking about? The one from?
I want to move forward because I haven't. Okay, I'll move forward with a video that I forgot his name again. Sorry, the guy in Slovenia. Huh?
Borut.
Yeah, Borut. Borut, can you move with this video, and this will introduce the evening through this video.
Или пока, или пока, пока, или пока.
You're watching the first steps of Violetta,
No, what
and you hear now how she's taking her first steps. Yeah. We need to move now. So now we have to move closer. It's getting more and more dangerous. So we're walking with a mother and a baby. In the last 5 minutes, there's already been 3 shells that could have easily hit us. This is the reality these people live day in and day out. And for them, it's day in and day out. This mother has to take a walk with the baby every day and listen to these shells. I mean, is this a life? Well, this is the life the powers in that supply the weapons to Ukraine want these people to have. Tell me what crime this girl did to live like this. And you hear the bombs in the background. We are walking here with the baby. There's no other choice. Ooh.
So we see a baby pretty much taking her first steps amidst the sounds of shelling, which is pretty profound and sends a pretty incredible message. We've also seen videos of children that have picked up remnants of shells and played with them, or even children in the basements that have been able to hear a projectile and know where it's going. Some even know what kind of projectile it is. So that video is so important. I'm speaking to our listeners. That video is so important to show that this has been going on for almost 10 years now, and it's still going on today. So I do want to maybe ask the group maybe about their experiences in 2014. I know the girls don't look that old, but maybe they can remember.
Yeah,
because
I'm
you
going
know,
to come.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Sarah,
Go
I
ahead.
will come to it just in 1 second. I just want to, because that's exactly what we thought, to go immediately back to 2014. But this video was taken 3 days ago. You know, this is not some ancient history. And Sasha's been around really difficult situation. He has actually been in Mariupol with Patrick. He discovered this famous story of the woman that was crucified, and it's him. So he's been in really difficult situations. I've also, this is not the first time I've been under shelling in my life. Donetsk is not my first introduction to it. But that moment, we were both petrified. We looked at each other and we were like, this baby is, if something happens to it on our watch, it's like we can never live with it, you know? I mean, everything that we're doing is for them, for the kids, for the next generation. And this is where the weapons that my country and your country are sending, they're targeting these kids. And I have a lot more to say, but I'll leave it. I'm going to pass it now to the crew, because we thought we would start exactly with what you said. What happened in 2014? And what I didn't even know, it wasn't 2014. It was 2004 that was the first
Yeah,
one.
there was that. We could go all the way back to Orange if we want, or we can just start at Maidan, whichever they prefer. But I do want to go through their personal stories because you know, every day that's Russian propaganda. It didn't happen like that. So we don't get to hear a lot of people from Donbas speaking about what they saw and felt during that incredibly critical time.
Yeah, if we turn, if you wanted to explain auditory what's the situation as it is, better to start from 2004, because it was the first Maidan that time, and it happened most slow. I mean, there was no violence grow in that moment. But what happened is that candidate from Donbas, so this candidate which was supported by Donbas, won the elections in 2004. But on west of Ukraine, they started this Maidan and influenced in Kiev to change the government. They were just the elections was did again by without rules, just to follow this Western Ukrainians' will. And people of Donbass in that moment just accept that, because violence is a bad decision always. So people here accept that, and we get what we get. During the period of new president they elected after Maidan, economic fell down very much, and low level of life also get very low. So when the 2014 came, and another attempt of Maidan started, people here didn't want to stay quiet again, and they just wanted to show their will. They came to some meetings in center of city. It was only weekend meetings, and people wanted to show to other Ukrainians that we cannot, we just also can have a voice and have a will. And I was there too, and I saw the situation as it is, and I understood that to stop growing of violence must be something done. The best thing could be done is this new Ukrainian politics who came to authority. They could come here and promise something to people to calm them down. That could work, and there will be no conflict. At the same time, there was a Crimea issue. When it was without single shot, Russia take under control Crimea, and then did the referendum, and Crimea was joined. Okay, so Crimea joined Russia, and people here saw, okay, maybe we can do like this. Let West Ukraine live as they want with their president. For us, better choice, if to compare, is to stay separate. That was some ideas here, but not everyone supported that. We just, people here doing meetings, and we waited that Ukrainian politics will manage it somehow, or local politics, whatever. So during these meetings, nobody came here, and all people saw, all the result of their attempts was that when they come home and we turn on Ukrainian TV, we see reports from all Ukrainian channels which were totally opposite of real situation here. We were blamed that we are separatists. We were blamed that Russia is paying us money for meetings we do, and the real will of people here is opposite of the reality. So everyone was pissed off more and more, and that's how it all started. So then I'm started very long, sorry, and then step by step were very important things going. First of all, Ukrainian government give order to intelligence, which went to each police station and took all of the weapons from the police stations with the reasons like people may come, they angry, so these people may come and take the weapon from police station. So that was the reason to take weapon from the police. It's hard to imagine in the modern world that police is not armed and useless against somebody who's armed. Next step was they blocked bank system, and they blocked all the payments for older people, all social payments, pensions, everything was dismissed, and the bank system was stopped. Next step, there was an order to the police to leave the city, leave Donetsk, leave cities with meetings. So order was to leave the city to the other cities which are under control of Ukrainian forces totally. So Police were evacuated, and for that time we had all the police stations were closed officially. And what happened next? During this time, I'm now describing only 2 months happens. So during this time, yes, during this time, there collected some groups of activists here, which were not armed. Like all the weapons they have was some hunting rifle. So in one moment, people, all of the city was armed very well. Most of this weapon was taken from intelligence office, which was abandoned. Intelligence just left, and it was kind of agreement given to this activists that you can just come and take it under your control. Yeah, so people just come and armed. There were a lot of automatic rifles and other weapons, which was enough to arm all of the city. So that's what happened. City became armed, no police, no bank system, and all the action of Ukrainian government was to grow violence. So I described a little bit the beginning of the situation. Let's maybe continue, please.
Actually, I took part in all these protests in 2014. Remember it very well. Actually, the truth is that SBU, this intelligence service, Ukrainian intelligence service, they left all these weapons for people. They're just gone. They left it for people. So I think that Ukrainian government, new Ukrainian government, was interested to make military conflict here. And also, I would like to say about some, economical reasons of this conflict. I count Ukrainian debt. It's public information. You can find it in internet, in official internet sources, actually. And also, Ukrainian debt was grown for international financial structures, was grown up. And then in 2003, Ukrainian government says we're ready to stop cooperate with international financial institutions. Yes, International Monetary Fund, IMF. And immediately there was a first attempt of colored revolution in Kiev. Then government changed it from for Western-oriented president, and Ukrainian debt grown up immediately. In 2013, international Ukrainian debt again fall down, and there is and also President Yanukovych didn't want to sign this document with Europe. He wanted better condition. But it starts this process, this war here in Ukraine, in Donbass, even I must say. So it was economical reasons. Actually, in 2013, it was just attempt of taking Ukraine under control by the finance instruments. Yes. But they use, yeah. So and then protesters started, and immediately. But people thought here that we just need some government which will protect our rights, protect of Russian-speaking people here, protect rights of Russian-speaking people here in Donbass. But nothing happened, and then immediately Ukrainian army came and start to shoot at us. Actually, on May 26 in 2014, I was near Donetsk airport. We just went there with some other correspondents to see what's happening, because we heard that someone's shooting, something is happening. Yes, and there was still Ukrainian police, road police, which is not allow people go closer to the airport. But immediately these police just went away. Yes, because they were scary. That's all. And next moment, immediately one helicopter just fly right to our side and start to shoot to me and my colleague from automatic cannon. It's luck that this helicopter didn't reach us, but we have had contusion. Yes, we had huge headache after this situation, and that's how war started for me. And actually, but other people here in Donetsk called me on my phone and asked me what's happening. It must be some training, and I told him it's war here. I see dead people just behind me. They told me no, it can't be. No one believed that our own government can send military to shoot to civilian. Actually, this day on May 26, 2014, first kid was killed. It was young guy, 17 years old. He was near the train station, Donetsk train station, and one of the helicopters shell just explosive near him, and piece of shrapnel hit his head, and he died immediately.
Nastya, by the way, Alexandra is from Moscow, right? But Nastya is from here. And let's ask Nastya, how does this 2014 start for you?
I remember it very good. I was a child, and imagine, I'm a child, I look in the window and I saw aviation that bombed my land. I was very scared, and I have nightmares after that for a long time. And even now I have nightmares about aviation that bomb. I can't believe that it's real, and I can believe that my country do it with us, with people that live here. I was very sad. I can't believe. I feel myself преданной, treated. I feel treated very much. And from this moment, the childhood for me is over. I became adult for one moment, like
How
this.
old were you? How old were you?
I was 10 years old. I was born in 2002 year when first Maidan was. I was born in this year, and in 2014 the war starts for me, and my childhood was end.
Sarah, do you have something to?
I want to ask how Nastya got from how she turned it around and found the strength to actually become a soldier after that horrible, harrowing childhood. I'm sure she has trauma and PTSD, and I'm wondering how did she find the courage to go join and actually fight after all of that?
I never thought that I go to army when I was a child. I want to be a journalist, but I work as a war journalist for first time. But I saw that our army needs people, that women can also join to army. So I immediately take a decision to go to army. It was very quick to take this decision for me, because all my life is war, and I wanted to stop as quick as it possible. So I want to help Russian army. So I joined it, and I was a связист. I work with connection in army. So yes, that's my story. It begins like this.
And maybe we should introduce our last participant, Sasha, Alexandra, Sasha. How you were in Moscow? When were you aware of the war the first time?
I'm same age as Nastya, and all my life I live in Moscow. So I was typical Moscow girl. Uh, I start I studied in MGIMO. It was my second course when the special military operation has been started. So in the first morning, I can say that I was scared, but it was really important for me, this war, because my father have relatives in Lvov, and my mother's family was from the border among Belarus and Ukraine. So in the Second World War, native town of my mom was uh, destroyed, and all people was killed here by Nazis, Ukrainian Nazis. So in this conflict, I remember about my ancestors. I think about them, and I know that uh, they'll say me if they were alive that I need to be in this war. I have no brothers. I have only sister, small sister. So from my family, nobody can go to this war to help our country. And I know that Ukrainian is also my land. My mother, my father, they speak Ukrainian with me also. So I know Ukrainian a little, and I've never feel that Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia are different countries. So in this moment, I think about myself, that my blood consists from Belarusian, from Ukrainian, from Russian blood. So I need to be with my people in this war. It was my first thing, and then I've been studied like international journalist. So it's my profession to be in in hot points and tell people the truth. And I decided to go to this war as a war correspondent to help my country in information war. I think that Russia now is not good in this part of war in information. So I came to Kharkivsky region, and there my long way in this war started.
I think you have a very important story to tell about yourself, but maybe later. Let's not forget she has a very important story to tell. Do you want to have more questions to ask? Now you see the panel. If not, we have something we would like to show you, Sarah.
I actually have a question to ask because Alexandra said it very well that Russia is not always that great with when it comes to information war. It's true. And I'm sure that you, as people who try to do this important journalism about Donbass, you actually probably read a lot of the Western sources and read a lot of the lies that are spread there about Donbass and about the war in Donbass. So I wanted to ask you this question. In your opinion, what is the biggest lie that the Western media spreads about Donbass and about this war?
It's difficult because I see so many lies. I see one story about cat that was stolen by Russian soldier. It was very funny because I see soldiers every day. My husband is also a Russian officer, and I know that one thing they have payment from our government, big payment, and they do not need to steal cats to sell it in Russia. And we have a lot of cats in Russia also. And in this report, correspondent told that, they are stealing everything. They need to sell it in Russia because they have no money, no things in Russia. And in Ukraine, there are a lot of European things. Oh, guys, we have a lot of things from Europe. In Moscow is one of the biggest cities, the modern city. We have everything we want. And in our big country, we have also boundaries with Asian countries. So we have things from Asia that in Ukraine you cannot found, and a lot of people who came as soldiers to this war was born and live in regions like Amurska region, Vladivostok. It's our Dальний Восток, far west. So far east. So they see a lot during their way through our country. You think that in Ukrainian, I think, sorry for all Ukrainians, but poor cities, we can find something that we can't find in Russia. And this lie was very funny for me, and I remember it. So
But
yes, what we're talking about, you hear all this news that Russian soldiers are stolen toilets from Ukraine. You hear it maybe? Yes. It's very funny. I don't know what drugs they use to create this news, but it is. And also my favorite lie, even Zelensky tell it in New Year обращение. He tells that one old woman take a duck, shoot it to copter Russian, and copter fell down. It's real story. Even Zelensky tell it. But if be serious, the most lie for me is that Russia started this war. It's not like this totally, and I don't know what to say. Okay. I've made an interview with a man and his family from Popasna. It's a city or small town, I don't know. Town in Lugansk People Republic. And he told how this war have been started. Popasna was attacked all days in January. So every day Popasna was attacked by Ukrainians. And after these attacks, our government, our representatives start talking about Ukraine again, because we have like a pause in this war for people who live in Moscow, because I think that Nastya have never seen that war has stopped. For us, we do not hear about Ukraine for this conflict in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Donbas for a long time. And then in January, in Moscow, we started again thinking about the situation in Donbas, because the communication has been started again. So the attacks was from Ukraine and after from Russia. And we have people who can say it and already try to tell about it.
For me, as a foreigner, coming here now, the biggest lie is that the war started last year in February. It's like, and this lie is still repeated and repeated and repeated in the West. Nobody acknowledges that this war has been going for the last 10 years.
May I add something too? As for me, the biggest lie is when Ukrainian government said that people here, people of Donbass, shell themselves. Yes, it was terrible. Especially when first time Donetsk was shelled by during couple days, all day. Some regions of Donetsk was shelled by Ukrainian MLRS Grad. A lot of houses was burned. A lot of people was running away. A lot of wounded and killed civilians. And I came there. I saw this. The most terrible pictures that I remember when I came to one house and I see a lot of kids stuff. I see that somewhere here should be little child, and it was so scary because this house was totally destroyed. And then we start to look for something, for I don't know, so for wounded or for dead civilians, and we found couple of young people, men and women. And immediately their father came and started to cry. Then I understood that a little child was taken away from this house, but this young couple came back just to take some stuff, and Ukrainian shell just came and killed them. And after this, Ukrainian government said they shelled themselves.
Yeah, this is very usual story for that period, 2014, 2015. All the world was convinced by the media from the West, from Ukraine, also from the Ukraine, that we shooting ourselves. It was how can it? It's for people here. We got used to it now. We all know here that that which is the reality. We feel it. It's about our lives. We feel this danger, but at the same time, we know that in the West and also in Ukraine, where we have our families, people are getting knowledge that somehow this goes all from Russia aggression from 2014. In 2014 and 15, they told us that this is still Russian aggression, and we shooting. Russia shoots us, or we shoot ourselves, and destroying our cities with our children. It's really like how can people believe it? It's that's our reality. Yeah.
They want to play us something and they want our reaction.
Hi, yes. It's from President Poroshenko's speech in 24 October 2014 in Odessa. I wanted to get your reactions to it and what you think about it because it's become quite infamous.
Тому що у нас робота буде, у них немає. У нас пенсії будуть, у них немає. У нас піклування під дітей, під людей, під пенсіонерів, під дітей буде. У нас діти підуть до школи, до дитячих садків. У них вони будуть сидіти в підвалах. Бо вони нічого не вміють робити. І так, і саме так ми виграємо цю війну.
You decide who is going to react.
Let me start maybe, if you don't mind. First of all, it's usual rhetorics of Western Ukrainian politics. They said that Donbass is nothing, Donbass produce nothing, people here can do anything. So we heard it long years, even before this war, this rhetorics. But it was, some radical politics, and they was not in power usually. But the tragedy is that this politics came to power in 2014.
Here, look and say like Adolf Hitler. I don't have another words. I hate him, obviously.
Because she's a child who had to stay.
Yes, I remember it. I remember I watched Ukrainian TV and he said it, Petro Poroshenko said it, and I was like, I want to grow up and kill him. What does he say? And also I want to add that he said that we can do nothing, that we are nothing, but let's go back to 2014 when all the Ukraine in Kyiv, they have meetings, they do nothing. All the days they have meetings, they jumped in the Maidan, and at the same time in the Donbas, fabrics, magazines, all the companies are worked, and the money from Donbas is going all over Ukraine, and only by our money Ukraine live for all these months, while in Kyiv they have meetings and they jumped. And after this he says that we can do nothing, that Donbas is nothing.
Yeah, so this rhetorics is a criminal rhetorics. Also, the president of a country considers us a citizen of the same country, allows himself to say these things. And who did they stand against in that moment? They were stand against local people here, which was not very organized even. And they didn't have a will for the moment. They didn't have a will to go to Donetsk. In 2014, they took Mariupol. They decided that it will be better decision to divide economics of Donbas. To divide it, they need to take Mariupol because it have a port, also huge steel production. So the Ukrainian government made a decision to take Mariupol. They needed 40 minutes for that operation in 2014. For about Donetsk, at that time, they just never came here. They were just making more and more tense situation, arming us, and make us scared that they're gonna come soon, and everyone should be prepared.
I personally would like to add something to this because a few people, after me and Sasha made a video, we were walking with this little baby while we were shelled. A few people asked, so why do you walk with the baby outside when there's shelling around? That's exactly the answer to Poroshenko. People are not going to live like rats. You know, they're brave enough. They're not going to stay all day at home. And that was a quiet day, actually. That was actually a really quiet day. Poroshenko wanted them to live inside in basements, and no, they're not. They're brave enough to even take the child to walk inside. There's risk, but the people here are going to continue to live, and that's how they show basically the victory to an insane statement like this.
Would like to add something?
I did have a question, which is that you referenced the importance of Donbas in the pre-2014 Ukrainian economy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a slogan, Donbas работает, Ukraina маданает, or if my Russian is correct, Donbass works and Ukraine Maidans. Could you tell us a bit about what that was like? That sort of both at Donbass's place in Ukraine, what it contributed to Ukraine, and how the rest of Ukraine was seen accordingly.
May I start again? Donbass is the region of production, something, the region of mines, the region of factories. And this city, this working people of the city never sleeps. They always going somewhere to work, maybe. The city wakes up early in the morning at 5 a.m. You could see big buses with miners going somewhere to get mine out of the mines, etc. So city, our region always looked at Kyiv, at this Orange Revolution, at this situation in 2014, and we looked at them like some crazy people. Why are you doing something when you can work and get your wealth by your hands? And in 2014, when some people was killed on Maidan, and when we saw Kyiv burning and destroying, we didn't want these people to come here. We didn't want them to destroy our native city, because we built it by our hands. And of course, we continue to work. Even when was, protest meetings, etc., it was always on holidays, because during the week people was work, no matter what is happening in the country. Donbass is really working region. Someone wants to answer?
Yes. I'm from a small city in Donbas, which called Yenakievo, and we have a large metal factory, which never stops their work. This factory was under the shelling at the war many times. A lot of people has died in the work from shelling of Ukrainian army, but it never stops their work, because if we stop the work, the restart the process will take a long time, and we can't do like this. We need to work every day. We are very brave and very strong people, and Ukraine can't do anything with this. And I want to tell you, this is a secret, your first project where I tell this. I even have a tattoo, even my parents doesn't know, in my heart. I wrote Yanakivsky Metallurgichesky Zavod, which translates Yanakievo Metal Factory, because metal plant, because I'm proud of people that work here, and I'm proud of that factory, which in my country, in my city.
You can add maybe something.
I can say about work in Donbass and meeting Ukrainians in Kiev only like a viewer, because I see this process from Moscow, and I can analyze it only now when I see it with my eyes here. And we work a lot with a lot of with miners, people who work every day under attacks. Don't matter. They work now here in this situation in cities where even journalists and old men do not want to go. So they are really brave people. And also I can say about Ukrainians who leave their country after this special military operation, because I've been visited some countries after the beginning, when I have a rehabilitation, after I was wandered, yes, difficult word. So I saw Ukrainians in Europe, and I can say that they have no problems with money like the Western journalists show it for us. But in Donbass, people live sometimes with no money. So we have problems with like money traffic from big Russia to small regions now because of war. And so here people have really small payment for their work, and a lot of people from Western region of Ukraine live with a lot of money in Europe. They have a beautiful life, but in stories they every day are crying about bad Russia, about people who show off in Donbass, and it is happy. I think it must be happy for Europeans also, because you see Ukrainians in your cities, and you can see how bad is their life in Europe. And you are helping the people who do not need money as Donbass need. will continue.
No. I would like to add one interesting story. I mean, for journalists, if you want to make video about something, some damages in the center of the city, you have only hours before some people came and fix it. That's how city services are working under the shelling in the center of the city still.
So yeah, repair. Sometimes the consequence of shelling repaired before journalists arrive, so they cannot do report because there is no evidence left. Yeah. That's how during 10 years. That's how we build our system to manage. Yeah.
I want to ask about Crimea in 2014. So, what was the overall reaction to Crimea returning to Russia, the rightful return to Russia? Did that give people of Donbass hope, or was it kind of like, was it sad that you weren't there too, or was it like, if Crimea can do it, we can as well, or how did you feel about the Crimean return to Russia?
Yeah, there are a lot of reports from Crimea. It's easy to find this information that 99% of population considered them Russians, and it was a great holiday for them when they made referendum and joined Russia. So people here on Donbas expected the same can happen here. We proclaimed Donetsk Republic to have some independence, with the will to have some independence, to have such situations that happened in Crimea. But we have what we have.
But I would like to add that people of Donbass never wanted to do something illegal. First of all, our demand was federalization of Ukraine. We wanted more independence, not to be totally independent like now we are actually from Ukraine, but we would like to have some rights. We would like to have some protection. But new Ukrainian government didn't came to us, didn't start to talk to us. They just sent her army. That's all.
I also speak and have friendship with a lot of boys from Crimea, which fight now here in Donbas in Russian army. And they said, we came to Russia very easily with no shooting, with no war. Russia make our lives really good. And we want to protect, to help people, Russian people in Donbass now. They have dog. They feel debt for Donbas people, you understand me? And they fight for people here now, the boys from Crimea.
I met a referendum in Moscow. I was a child, and I've been watching firework in the center, and the feeling was that something very important was that night. I also have friends from Crimea, and I've never heard about killing people during the referendum and in the process. So what usually I heard now, because yes, after a referendum, everybody was in waiting of boundaries. But Russia, sorry, we have a bad bureaucratic system. And yes, people from new region and also Crimea often speak about our bureaucratic machine. But I saw interview of Ukrainian journalists in Crimea, where they are trying to speak about like problems after a referendum that people of Crimea have, and they also said one thing: maybe we have problem, but we will never speak about it with Ukrainians, because we're happy to be with Russia. It was our decision. And yes, maybe we have some difficulties, but it's not your business.
We wanted to ask about what life was like during the period of the Minsk ceasefires. So, from after the end of February 2015, how did things improve? How did they settle down? How did life take shape, as it were, before 24 February 2022?
I think we lost them. Maybe they won't be able to reconnect.
Yes, I think they froze a little bit.
I bet
which
that
is
maybe
understandable.
Ukraine found out and shut off the internet.
Yes, these are the real the real conditions that we operate under, and this is as real as it gets.
It is always important, of course, to ask people on the ground for perspectives. After all, one can always talk a lot, pontificate, but need to make sure to find out more from the ground.
Do you have the number of Ukrainians living in Russia? I thought it was about 8 million. They're asking in the chat. I don't remember. I know it was 6 million and then it went up.
Well, of course it went up because throughout the years, obviously, it's been a slow but a steady process because people, during those 10 years, people have been leaving the Donbass to move to Russia. And especially since the special military operation started, it became even more so because people had to leave from some places where they previously could stay safely. So I don't even know the exact number, but I just know that we definitely have a huge influx of refugees. We've had them, which, by the way, I feel like especially last year, I didn't see any Western sources really talk about how many refugees are actually coming to Russia, which to me, as a Russian, it's actually a very important point because the way they like to portray it in the West is that we are this aggressor who's invading an innocent country. But if you think about any major conflict, if in a situation like this, how many Russians during the Great Patriotic War would be willing to go to Germany and to find refuge there? But people, Ukrainians, they come to Russia, which I feel like they never really talk about. They like to present it as us taking people to Russia by force, but they come willingly, obviously.
Well, first things first, I want to say we got a tip, and for that we must give a hat tip to you who did it. Thank you very much for your generosity. The second thing I would want to say about that is that the Guardian ran a story a few months ago because, as you know, one of the outstanding charges in the International Criminal Court is that apparently the evil Russian army is kidnapping people and re-educating them, denying the existence of Ukrainians, and shock horror, not letting them, teaching them that Nazism is wrong or something. I have no idea what exactly it is that is quite so evil that they're meant to be doing. And in particular, I don't have an idea here because there was an interesting article in The Guardian, a newspaper in the UK, entitled "We Hugged for a Long Time: The Ukrainian Father Who Rescued His Children from Moscow," 19 March 2023. And in it sets out that a Ukrainian VSU reservist who was captured and then questioned by the Russians, but then later in Mariupol in 2022, but then later let go and working on a construction site in Donetsk, named Yevgeny Mezhevy was told that his children who had been evacuated to Russia were in Moscow, and he was allowed to cross the border into Russia, go to Moscow, collect his children in Moscow. They went to Red Square and took a picture, which is the lead picture, in Red Square, and then they were allowed to leave Russia and go to Estonia. This apparently is how the Russian government is kidnapping people from their parents, and this is in The Guardian. But therefore, looking at this, it's like, I don't see the problem here. It means that Russian authorities knew that the father was still alive when they found out he was still alive, and he wanted to collect his children. It was arranged for him to be able to collect his children. So.
Well, and actually, just recently, Lavrov, when he was speaking, I think it was at the UN, and he was saying how Russia has kept very detailed lists of the children, and they have distributed those lists. Those are not secret information. So they were brought to Russia, but if there are parents who are alive, those children would be released to them. It's not a problem. And also it's a very strange situation, because it seems sometimes that the West would rather us leave those children in the war zone rather than us save them. And then later, for them to be reunited with their parents, which is very strange, but it's not the strangest thing that we have heard from the West.
I must say, the visit to the parliament.
We're gonna do a spoiler alert. I want to do like a whole podcast. I want to do a whole episode on this.
In which case, I'll hold back.
Well, we could talk a little bit about it, but I don't want to go too much because I want to do a history of the OUN, like we did in the space, but not exhaust you the same as you did all the work in that space.
Well, it was quite exhausting, but it said stuff that needed to be said because, the Canadian government has had difficulty, and I'll just leave it at that, because this isn't more widespread knowledge. So, well, hey, people can say that it's isn't information, but it just is kind of like what the ISW said. President Putin told the Russian Ministry of Defense to halt the Ukrainian counteroffensive at the defensive line so it would make it seem as though the Ukrainian counteroffensive has failed.
Yeah. What was really funny is that Lydia probably doesn't know as much, but our northern neighbor is always kind of they're lucky and unlucky to be so close to the USA because they get to look very good right next to the USA. So we held a discussion on it last night, and the Canadians were like, couldn't believe that other countries were even talking about it. They're like, you guys heard? And we're like, this is huge news. And they're like, we're never on international news. And I was like, well, so you guys thought you could get away with it.
I'm sorry for our excuse me, for all of our good Canadian friends that this is the type of, I guess, fame that your country has now, because I know that there are a lot of wonderful people in Canada, and let's hope that Canada will have the opportunity to be famous and to be on the news, not for something like that.
In the defense of the Canadians are great. In their defense, every Canadian I've spoken to has been completely embarrassed and appalled, and I think that they will hold their government to account. They're better at it than we certainly are here, but I said that it sucks and it should have never happened, but I'm almost glad it did, and I'm glad it was Canada, because not because Canada deserves it or anything like that, but if it were the United States has already done it. So and then nothing happened. So I mean, we had Azov at Disney World to get awards. We've had Azov in our Congress.
At Stanford, getting presentations from both Michael McFaul, I live in $1 million home, and Francis Fukuyama. So yeah, it all went kind of pretty badly wrong mainstream, but I think there are several first we have to say this. Yes, as it looks unfortunately as though we might not be able to reestablish connection. The reason this is a controversy is because most people in Canada are good and decent people, and I think that is the main thing. It's not because we said anything, it's because people in Canada noticed about this fact, whether it was from us or another source, and were outraged, which proves that most people are good and decent people who don't like Nazis and are ashamed that their government let this happen, or at any level thought it would be okay. And the second thing, of course, to note is that once again, it shows you can't ever ignore history, because there is lots and lots of people have done lots of things in the past to bring us here and to make our current world. But I think also the incident shows, given just how long ago, when you think about it, World War II was, that something that is so long ago, and where the last of the people who can fully remember it are about to pass away from us, is that even so, it's not really that long ago. It still can quite literally reach out and touch you and be there, because that wasn't applauding neo-Nazis, as Francis Fukuyama and Michael McFaul did. They were applauding a real-life, historical, actual Nazi and SS soldier, not someone doing a LARP, but someone who was in the full-blooded Waffen-SS. And it was right there being applauded in the parliament of a major, well-established Western democracy. So it can always come back to us, and it'll always... history is always with you. It's not dead people. It is very, very much alive and a part of the world that you live in.
Yes. And so I see that some people in the chat, we kind of jumped into the whole Canada thing. Not everyone is aware of what we're talking about. So let's recap a little bit. What happened is that obviously Zelensky is on his tour right now, asking for help from anyone that he can, and he came to Canada. And the Canadian government decided to organize a very special meeting for him, and decided to invite a soldier, a warrior, a hero, who apparently fought the Russians during the Second World War. The only plot twist is that, what is clear to any person who can think at least a little bit, that the person was a Nazi and indeed maybe fought against the Russians. But yeah, and so then, of course, the Canadian government went into major damage control and said that nobody knows who invited the man. Maybe he just walked in, got lost, and here he is. Someone wheeled him in and greeted him, and they said, well, it's an old man, and so we couldn't be rude, so we applauded. So all kinds of ridiculousness. Which obviously everyone has called out. Nobody believes that it was an accident, because how events like that, anyone with half a brain understands that events like that are planned in advance. There are no random people there just appearing in front of the Congress. Does Canada have a Congress? Is that what it's called?
A parliament, but yes.
Parliament. Yes, I remember there was a different word. And so it just all looked very strange. But I can tell you, as a Russian, that was actually one of the happiest moments for me. And I will explain why. Because you can't imagine, well, you actually can, but our listeners can't imagine how many times in my conversations with some skeptics, I've been told that no, there are no Nazis in Ukraine. No, there are no Nazis in the West. And if they say that there are, people say, well, but there are Nazis everywhere, so it doesn't really count. Russia is just using this whole Nazi thing to justify its invasion. You're just out of your mind. You Russians are always paranoid about Nazis. But this just made me so happy, because I felt that I was justified. And for all those people who were saying for the past year and a half that Russians are out of their mind, no, we're not. We're not. Nazis do exist, and they're supported. by the government in Ukraine. They're supported by the governments in the West, and that's the uncomfortable truth.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was a very vindicating moment. I mean, if nothing else, because there's an American expression: "Lie down with dogs, wake up with fleas." And the Canadian government suddenly found that it was covered in fleas and itching all over, and it didn't quite know what to do. My favorite part was just how vigorously in agreement Chrystia Freeland, who, let's be clear, we will mock Western politicians, but Chrystia Freeland is a genuinely accomplished, highly intelligent woman, which makes her all the more scary and sinister. She was suddenly vigorously nodding along in agreement, like someone was, manipulated, as though she was a puppet being manipulated, like Chebu's doing right now. Yes, yes, yes. Because it was just an accident. That's all it was. And it's like, yes, because you don't want anybody, Madam Deputy Prime Minister, looking at your granddad.
There's so many things about this that are crazy to me. Okay, first of all, the event in and of itself is crazy. Then the aftermath is what really gets unhinged. Instead of apologizing, first of all, they introduced him as a Ukrainian hero that fought the Russians in the Great War of Ukrainian independence, which I didn't know that World War II was just a fight for Ukrainian statehood and independence. But anyway, so afterwards, we've gotten already talking about this plays into Russia's hand, Putin's hand. Talking about this is Russian propaganda. We had a Jewish MP say, who had already taken selfies with the guy, say she didn't know, which, all right, maybe she didn't. And then to use that same Jewish MP and parade her in front of the parliament to say the sort of apology while Chrystia Freeland behind her is nodding like a maniac. It all looked very coached and very staged. Why did the Jewish MP do that? There was another MP before she spoke that was like, this is appalling. And then the Jewish MP comes up and says, it could have been a mistake and nobody really knows. And he kind of appeared out of thin air. Like, why her? Why did she have to do it? It was just, I hate the whole thing. I really hate the whole entire way that it's happened and it's been handled. It could have been handled so much differently. And now we have people calling for his extradition, which I don't agree with personally, but that's just my opinion. When they could have just apologized and probably quietly let it go. Now now Poland is asking for extradition. I don't know if Israel said anything yet, but
the Israelis have launched a diplomatic protest and have made clear that they're extremely upset. And that they don't buy we're so sorry. How could we have anticipated that this could have happened? I mean, golly gee, we're just such innocent boys and girls here. It's like, oh, come on, Canada, you're a big grown-up country and a very sophisticated one. Stop it.
Right. We've gone from Donetsk is shelling itself, which is not even believable. Crimea was like a bloodbath for independence with little green men, which didn't happen. What else? Maidan was a revolution of dignity. It wasn't a revolution at all, and there was no dignity involved. So now them telling us that the Great Patriotic War, aka World War II, was the war of Ukrainian independence, and Russia dropped bombs on Japan. That's what Ursula said too in the last week. So this is where we are. This is where we've gotten. We're so far. We're back. We're to the point where they're just rewriting. And I think that didn't Mishustin say something about it today about somebody said we in Belarus have an obligation to make sure people don't rewrite history. I mean, Russia's been written out of history enough as it is. We're just gonna eradicate Russia's entire participation in World War II. That's what they're literally doing. Or if they participated, they did it to drop nukes on Japan.
Well, but also another narrative that they're trying to push, they kind of say, well, Russia obviously did fight the Nazis, but then, they were communists, and communists, they're kind of, kind of as bad as Nazis, maybe even worse. That's what some people say. And so they're trying to, let's not, we can laugh as much as we want, but let's not forget that the Western propaganda is actually very good. I mean, it's not always sophisticated, but it's very effective. And so I can see this, the Ursula thing. She is actually, the way that was worded, that was very clever, because you can take it two ways, because she didn't exactly lie, because she was talking kind of that Russia is threatening nuclear war again, meaning that we have done that in the past. I guess she's referring to last year or whatever they like to claim. And so we've been doing it again, even though we haven't really. But if you read it, you can, it also kind of sounds like what you said, that it sounds like we were the ones who dropped the nuclear bombs on Japan, which is not funny at all. And it's ridiculous. And so what worries me is that it's, just I can see this narrative building up to where people say, yeah, like, because they can't deny some of the problematic things that are happening, like the Nazis and other things. But now they're twisting it to where they're kind of admitting it, but they're saying, yeah, maybe these things are true, but see, we're fighting Russia, and Russia was bad during the Second World War because they were communists. Russia is horrible now. So whatever it is that we have to do, whatever it is that we have to support is completely justified because it's Russia and it's the greater evil. That is the narrative.
Oh, yes, definitely. And this is a very, very slippery slope that can label some bad things. I mean, after all, if the Soviet Union, one of the Allied powers, was so evil, well, we just have to look at some other points that the Germans and the Japanese were raising and think about those more carefully. And we need to think about these other things. I mean, after all, why are all these Poles and Jews complaining about all this stuff that was happening when they were trying to fight against the evil communists and save Western civilization? You can see how it leads there. And this isn't an exaggeration, because nobody in the whole vetting process among the most senior Canadian officials, the fact that he was publicly applauded there. I mean, it might have been possible in times past that he would be there, but nobody would mention it. But the fact that they thought it was okay to publicly applaud him means that we're starting, I think, to reach some dangerous tipping points here. Which fortunately still are not acceptable, but that's as long as we make clear that it's not acceptable anymore. And
we have a new co-host, I can see.
Yes.
Oh.
Bisous.
She's so cute. She's too cute. But yeah, the cute. I was going to rage some more, but then I saw the cutest dog ever, and so now I can't really rage because she's too adorable.
She's being really bad, so we're trying to. She can only do like an hour, and then she's like, "All right, that's enough." Like, she was good for like an hour, and then I was like, "All right."
This is real life with pets. My cat has been staring at me for the past 20 minutes and begging for attention too. But in reality, this whole situation, I'm just really curious to see how it's going to develop, and I'm actually happy to see that it's been developing because not all of these situations usually do.
There is a reason I think it blew up in their faces. Do you mind if I read some names?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully to make a point. Okay. So as I referenced in the space last night, I think part of the reason this blew up in Canada is that for Canadians who are over the age of 40, a series of massacres perpetrated by the Waffen SS in the first 2 weeks of the Battle of Normandy in June 1944, so Saving Private Ryan, that sort of period, was that the 12th SS Panzer Division murdered 156 Canadian prisoners of war that we know about just in the first 2 weeks of the Battle of Normandy in June 1944. Just in that time, that's not the entire Battle of Normandy and just the Canadians. So when Steven Spielberg shows the SS just running along and shooting wounded American soldiers who can't fight back, that's not Steven Spielberg making stuff up. That's the kind of people who the Waffen SS were. So I wanted to read some names because the website juno.org for Juno Beach, where the Canadians landed and took the beach in Normandy, has some names of has all the names of the 156 who were murdered, and I'm just going to read from each of the one name from each of the letters here. So Harold S. Angel, Oscar J. Baudouin, Lawrence Chartrand, Walter Daniels, Anthony A. Fagnan, George V. Gill, Alvin J.J. Harkness, William Izzard, Henry Jones, Claire Kynes, Elmer Lefort, Hugh MacDonald, William Nicol, Gerard O'Leary, Percy Parisian, Cecil Riggs, Cartian Sigurdsson, James Taylor, Nelson Vickery, Thomas Windsor, and 10 known but to God. And that's just a few of the names of those who were just killed in 2 weeks by one SS division in 1944, Canadians. I think that's just a small sample of why it blew up in their face, and also just shows that we often talk in here about the war in the East, but what the Nazis and the Waffen-SS did touched even people in the much easier and less bloody war in the West. And they applauded that organization that did that to those men. So if my voice is trembling a bit, that's yeah, because I'm not very happy about that.
Well, I can understand why, because you know that for any Russian, that war is one of the most personal and emotional things. And actually, there are many aspects about this particular conflict that we're in right now that make me very sad. But I guess one of the saddest things for me is that I feel like, at least that's my opinion, and I know that a lot of Russians share it, is that we've always obviously viewed that victory as our victory, but we also always viewed it as our victory, as in, with the Western countries, with our allies. It's not just a Russian victory. It's not just the Soviet victory. It's a victory of all the people who fought in that war, who died in that war, who never got to come back home to their families. And so I'm getting emotional too. And so to me, one of the saddest things is that this conflict has created this divide to where right now it seems like we can't share that history anymore. And I feel like that's a shame. I feel like we should. And it's heartbreaking to me, really.
Fortunately, there's a cute dog, and she doesn't know about any of this.
Oh, she's saying something. But we have been trying again to reestablish connection with our guests, because it is a very special live stream for us and for them, we think. And so we're going to keep trying for a little bit more, because I guess, we have to be a little bit patient, or a lot of patient with them, because they are in a war zone and things are not always ideal. So you'll have to bear with us for a little bit longer.
also, I do want to, maybe we can do that podcast episode or stream, whatever you guys want to do this weekend, since we don't have a guest. And we can just do it ourselves.
I think it would be good because this is clearly something that has generated a lot of interest and conversation, and I also think shows that the work that we do here is necessary, not just for education, but also eventually it's just a case of as well, something like this was always bound to happen when you start thinking about this way and overlooking certain things. It also, as I said, means that history is never really is not ever dead, people. It's always there with us for good and for bad, and you have to be aware of it and mindful of it. We have to be aware of where we're coming from, and so I think to do a bit of an episode on it would be good, if nothing else, because I also want to discuss with you guys again, Chrystia Freeland going because that was given her character, that was quite something special.
Do you think that she just appeared kind of nervous, like, we better get this right? I mean, I feel like Chrystia Freeland is like untouchable in terms of like political scandal or any sort of, I mean, she's like in line to the NATO throne, which, I mean, as her being a Nazi, it kind of is quite fitting, but
General Heusinger, Chef des Operaciones de Oberkommando des Heeres. Not at all sus. I mean, perfect guy to be NATO Secretary General. I mean, he knows all about fighting in that part of the world.
Right. And I also want to do the episode because, especially here in the West, the West, the United States and Canada, we're so far removed from the war. You know, we've never had a war. We haven't had a war on our soil in almost 200 years. We don't know what it's like to have a foreign invasion or in recent memory is what I'm saying. So we don't have like there's not very many prominent World War II memorials like there is in Europe and Russia. It's just we're so far removed from it, and what we're taught about it is that we aren't even taught about Russian involvement in high school, really, other than they were like bad communists. No, you're not taught about how many Russians died. You don't know about Stalingrad, Leningrad. You're not taught about the Eastern Front at all. For us, the war in Europe begins with the storming of the beaches of Normandy and American, Canadian, Australian, and British heroes. So that's our World War II story. So it's easy for politicians in the West to kind of, I mean, they didn't get away with this, but it's easy to get away with stuff like this because we don't even educate ourselves on this history, right? I mean, we could see the whole cliche about like those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, but I mean, geez, it's pretty evident. And we're getting to the point where we're rationalizing this guy because he fought communists and communism is worse than Nazism. Like that's how far we've gotten. So, I mean, we're back to that kind of division. I'm glad to be on the communist side in this, but I mean, this is really just the same thing as like a splitting of ideas. And I also want to give a commendation to Canada because you have managed to piss off a lot of nations this week. India, China, Poland, Israel. You've done a number. So good luck to Canada. Welcome to the life of the United States.
I think our brothers and sisters up to the north have just revealed what I like to say, which is that Canadians are just like Americans. They're just a little better at hiding their insanity.
I had no idea. I always look at Canadians as like the rational Americans, the rational and kind Americans. I mean, we know about Canada taking in a lot of Ukrainian displaced persons and their families, but I mean, I just didn't think that it. We had spaces on Canada in the last couple days, and I didn't even know that. It's really just an extension of the British, like the British Crown. Really, it's just more of
Well,
the.
not so much. The Canada doesn't have the same pull in the British imagination as Australia, but that's a subject for another time. But yeah, Canada back at the time of World War II, not so much afterwards, really was deeply influenced very, very much by Britain. But you can even see this, just as my concluding thought, on the evolution of Canadian accents. Nowadays, you can't tell the difference between a Canadian and an American, whereas before, Canadians had a similar but quite distinct accent that I've heard some older Canadians speak, and it's very lovely in its like distinctiveness. It's like, oh, this is like an American accent, but with some kind of, but not really British flavoring, but is actually its own distinct thing. And suddenly this person can just elide into French. This is so cool. And then nowadays, Americans sound like Canadians to the point where I've sometimes been asked if I'm Canadian. No, spoiler alert, I'm not Canadian.
Well, looks like we're getting information that we won't be able to continue with our guests today, which is sad, but also at least we had a good almost an hour of very insightful conversation that I think our listeners and we definitely enjoyed. So we will for sure try to reschedule because there is so much more that we need to ask them. I'm sure that there is a lot more that they need to share with us.
Yeah, very much. Well, bless all.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We will book another episode with our friends in Donbass, and we will keep you guys informed. And we'll do an episode this weekend on the history of the OUN and why the Nazis are in Canada now. Thank you guys all for joining us. Please, please, please like and subscribe to our YouTube or Rumble before we get inevitably banned from YouTube, probably for this episode, honestly. And we'll see you all next time.